And welcome to episode 8 of the Texas Porch podcast, Texas Talk with a touch of sports. Today we will be talking about the good of all of this we have been going through. And some good, question mark, coming up with Governor Abbott releasing the restrictions. When most of you listen to this, it will already have been lifted, of course, but we'll cover all angles of that. We'll also have our regular occurrence of This Week in Texas Sports and History coming up. This is a Mitch, Paul, and Lamar episode. Kevin and Josh have the well-deserved night off after the smashing success of our Cowboys draft recap. But be sure to go back and check that out if you have not already. But real quick, like a massive help to us, of course, is if you subscribe. You can email us to texasporchpod@gmail.com and give us that 5-star rating on Apple Podcast. Help us with that fancy algorithm to help out your good old buddies out here. But if it's your first show, basically, my name is JP. My longtime buddies and me have a podcast about the greatest state in all the land, Texas. Introducing, in no particular order, Mitch, Paul, Lamar, gents. How y'all doing?
Yes, Mitch was first, yes. Doing well.
Okay. Yeah.
How are you guys doing?
Good, good. So not to give too much of the magic away, but, oh yeah, first off, sorry. I got it. All right. There you go. I'm riding hard today. What? That sounded very hick of me. Got that diet root beer going. So,
slow down.
With our new method of recording, do y'all like staring into each other's eyes, or is it too awkward, or do we not like it? What do we think?
If we're not all used to Zoom calls by now, if we weren't before, some of us in the some of y'all in the corporate world probably do this a lot more than the rest of us. But I mean, I'm on these things 3 or 4 times a day. I guess it's kind of getting used to it by now.
I am in the corporate world and have got quite a bit of experience with Zoom under my belt now, so I'm pretty used to it. But staring into the handsome eyes of people that I know, it just brings an extra, flair to it.
Yeah, Lamar, it's been a couple weeks, Lamar. You enjoy your much-deserved paid vacation from us?
Oh, it was great. I thought it was a suspension, but no, the time off was good.
He told me it was.
This is my first video call. I've been on house party with family, but I actually haven't had a work Zoom call. It's all been like audio, just over the phone.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we're the first humans you've seen in like a month.
Pretty close.
All right. So the basics for today's show, we wanted to relay some news, of course. The big focus point of today's show is going to be talking about Governor Abbott's plan to reopen our great state, but also just talking about the good in all this. So looking what the Texas Tribune put out earlier today, that was the most updated thing that I got. But Governor Abbott's plan to reopen Texas allows for restaurants, retail stores, movie theaters, and malls to open up at 25% capacity. Who's going to police that? But rural counties that have fewer than 5 confirmed cases can serve up to 50% of their regular capacity. Restaurants can use dine-in service again, but that's, again, that 25% rule. They have to have disposable menus, condiments, only upon request, and there's some different buffet measures. If they have that, I think they could still do it, but they have different guidelines they have. But museums and libraries also included in this. Movie theaters have a 2-seat buffer and an empty row. Bars to remain closed. I don't know why I said that so much louder, but bars are to remain closed. Retailers can offer customers in-store pickup. There's a lot of others with this. Golf courses, we'll talk about some of this later. Church services have been allowed to stay open as long as they follow social distancing guidelines. But guys, what do you think? It's obviously the big story right now, and we don't know. We're just projecting right now. But what do y'all think about this here?
What I've heard so far from all the, because we all get all these emails from all the people that we've lent our email addresses to, restaurants and places like that, church and whatnot. Everything so far since Wednesday's announcement has been, we're not changing anything just yet. Like, we're excited to have you back in our establishment, but at the same time, we're not ready. And just to protect blah, 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 we've all read it, but to protect the customers and our employees and the way we do business, it just isn't feasible for us to make any changes at the moment, which, I was a little surprised by some of that, but some of it I really wasn't. I think, we're going to keep on with this for a while. I think some people are just not ready. I mean, we're kind of set in what we're doing now, whatever that is, that I feel like some businesses are just not prepared to take on that responsibility of going back to somewhat normal, but not completely doors wide open, do whatever.
Which can probably help. I mean, if even fewer are going to open, I mean, now it's only 25%, or not 25% of businesses, but in some cases 25% of people that would normally be there. So you sort of have only a quarter of the people being able to go. It's already a lot fewer. So if some are not participating in opening back up, that's even fewer. So I think it's better for us. Gets the economy going a little bit, but also we're not just kind of going at the virus without much protection.
I try to imagine just being a consumer and on the consumer side, and I'm not in any hurry to go back, really. I may try to have some get-togethers with friends or go see them and still try to observe the distance thing, just to kind of, I don't know, see people again. But I'm not in a hurry to go in public without taking precautions.
Yeah, and see, so that's probably a good argument for opening back up, or opening back up maybe more than some others would want. It's just to say that these are just what the businesses want, but the consumers aren't even going to want to come out. So you're still going to have fewer people visiting than you would have 6 weeks ago, or 3 months ago. So it's it is still kind of a conservative reopen.
Yeah, although I will say, I do want to see if my favorite bar is open, just to see how the bartender's doing, and give them $20 and then walk out, because I feel those people, they just have nothing.
Yeah, that
so
sounds.
In that sense, they're going to be really crowded. They're going to be super, super crowded. So these types of places where there's like that, there's a lot of personality with the restaurant or with the wait staff or whatever. There's going to be a lot of people wanting to go in, so it's going to be super busy for, I don't know, probably I'd say weeks or months until business is sort of kind of flattens out like it used to be.
I was thinking about shopping malls, so somebody mentioned that. Well, what is you see that little occupancy sign on the entrance of most businesses. Like, what is the occupancy level of a shopping mall, an indoor mall? What does that even mean? Like, when is it ever at 50% capacity for a giant, million square feet kind of facility? Like, I don't even know, not million, but whatever it is.
I mean, gosh, they've been seemingly phasing malls out for a decade. I mean, just based on online shopping. Well, I think this accelerated that, by probably a few years.
I mean, do they set it low, kind of like these social distancing rules they've done anyway, knowing, okay, we set it at 25%, so they'll get up to about 40, and then when it's 50, it'll be 70, or is that just common human? Does that make sense?
They've got to start just with local. I think what they're doing is trying to sort of build a data set. So they're going to start with only a quarter, and they probably know that consumers aren't going to come out as much anyway, so it's going to be maybe even lower than 25%. But then they're going to know, okay, we opened up 25%, business was up, 20, was up 20% or whatever. And so they're going to have a data like, okay, well now, and they're going to have a data on infections, like how many people got infected because we opened up, 25%. So then they'll be able to say, okay, well, we'll have some data to go on and say we open up 50% or more.
Lamar, I'm with you, though. Your initial comment a few minutes ago, they can tell us we can come back, but that doesn't mean we're going to come back. I think, obviously, all of us have a lot in common, but you and me share that I kind of like the way it's been. I feel safer at home. Hey, that catchphrase caught on, but it sounds like, Lamar, that we're on the same path there.
Yeah, I'd just like to see some progress either on, some sort of treatment or, I don't know, something related to improvement, either speeding recoveries up or, hopefully a vaccine sometime, but, some progress before I jump back out there.
I just feel like it's not, we've done this for this long. We're making it, as much as I want to go sit down at a restaurant with my buddies and have a meal, but I just don't think it's time yet.
Mm-hmm. You know what, economy wise, I think that's probably what a lot of people are missing is that this thing could be opened up 100%. And it would still hurt, because businesses wouldn't be making as much as they were before. There may be an initial surge, but people are kind of used to this. Some people like it. If they don't like it, they're at least going to be more careful. So instead of going out 5 times a week, they may go out 2 times because I don't want to go out too much or whatever. So I think, consumers' revenue market wise is just going to be down anyway, even if the thing is opened up 100%. So changes will be made probably even after they open up.
Mm-hmm. And in all this, it feels like you have to say this disclaimer first, but I'm obviously a pro-business. In all of it, I still just worry that it's too soon. And I think that I would just feel better with a lot more data. And I haven't been too anxious about this, but I just worry it's all coming back a little too soon. But I still pray for the best, hope for the best. I just think it could be a few weeks too soon. Am I hedging myself too much, trying to play both sides, or kind of?
I wonder what everyone thinks. So like Jason, so you think too soon? Just if you had to say too soon or right on time, what would you choose? Like I wonder where we'd all sit on that.
I say too soon, obviously.
Yeah, I think we're about 2 weeks too soon. I think 2 more weeks is going to make a big enough difference in knowing where we're at. I think the biggest reason, sorry, not to take over again, but just the biggest reason they were willing to go forward and say, do it now, what we are making changes of, is the hospital capacity never reached above what they expected. And I think that's one of the major reasons that the health community has said, at least to the advisory people at the state level, said it's okay to start progressing back.
So too soon?
Yeah, Mitch, I also think it's too soon. I know I just commented to that, but I think what's driving people a little crazy is that the amount of time is undetermined, and people are getting frustrated. And it's, to me, at least, it seems it's turning into kind of an emotional reaction, almost like groupthink or something like that, where we just feel like we're about to bust, and we have to give something so that we feel like we made some progress or gained some territory back. But logically, there's been no improvement with the virus, so it just doesn't make sense to me.
So interestingly, I actually am not going to say it's too soon, just because of the way that they have structured it, or at least from what I know of it. It's just very limited. They're making business. It's just think of a time where a governor in Texas, in modern day Texas, is issuing an order that you can open up your business, but you can't sell every other seat. Like that's pretty drastic. And yet he's doing it, and I think it shows that I think they're being safe. I think they're being a little conservative, and so I think the open up is probably right on time to at least see what happens. See where it goes.
And it's fascinating you say that, because I think we'd all agree the national perspective is that Texas is jumping the gun here. The Georgia opening has been criticized, but don't y'all think that's the national perception that it's? I mean, I guess really. Kind of arguing with myself here that they're saying it's too soon, but Mitch, you're saying that I don't know. I just thought you'd answer that in a different way.
Yeah, no, there's definitely, I think, well, first of all, there's an obvious political difference here.
Just a bit, yeah.
If you just want to, throw a line down the middle, that there is one. If you're, sort of anti-Trump or you're just going to lean towards sort of opposing policy that he supports, just kind of innately. In this case, Texas is kind of, nationally talked about in those terms. Although I don't think it's near as negative as Georgia, because, no one recommended, that Georgia open up, and some people were recommending that, Texas would be okay if it were in certain areas or if it's a little conservative. So, I think they're kind of leading. They're probably, just perception wise, I mean, I think they're probably leading in terms of doing it the safe way, opening up early, but doing it the safe way. Whereas Georgia has gone off and like, oh, no, don't do that. Don't open it up like that.
Something else I was thinking of is there's some information that we don't have now, but that we could have an improved situation with medical equipment and procedures and things with the health facilities that at least I'm not privy to, that we didn't have when it first started. Remember all the news when they said we didn't have enough ventilators and the multiple companies were going to build them? Mm-hmm. Those might be coming down the pipeline, which could make it easier to open. Mm-hmm. So but I don't have that information. I'm just saying that the people in Austin may be a little bit more prepared than what we hear. on the news.
And we've all been, I mean, everything, just the world consciousness has just been just mind blown, right? So we're all just like, wow, okay, this happened, everything changed, we all shut down. So everybody has the same experience. I mean, sure, there are some of us who are just going to go out there and, just party and, spring, like the spring break video this year where, yeah, that's going to happen for some people. But don't you think that like 75% of Americans are now like, know that they got to be cautious. They got to be, maybe they won't wear a mask, but they're not going to go sneezing on people. Whereas before, you walk down the hallway and some guy just sneezes, you'd be like, wow, really? Well, now I don't think you have that anymore. You're not going to have it. So we're all going to be just kind of hygienically just better.
75% of Americans, maybe 40% of Texans. I don't get the idea that in this percentage here, 3 out of 4 of us say too soon. It's got to be the opposite. I think if you polled Texans, 3 out of 4 would say, why didn't we do this 3 weeks ago? Right? That fair?
I think probably that's true. I give you credit for that because I think that's probably true, and that's more of the political thing. It's just, you sort of have to take a side or whatever. And so I think it's probably a lot of that. But even of those people that say, we just should have opened up. I mean, I've got a Facebook feed like everybody else that are, extreme opinions on over here and over here. Even the people who, thought this was like a Democrat hoax, even those people, they may have been arguing that we shouldn't have shut down or that we shouldn't have opened up or that we should have already opened up. But in their heart of hearts, they're going to be more careful than they are being careful. These are also people who are wearing masks. They post pictures of themselves wearing masks and stuff like that. So I think it's just everyone is a little bit higher attention, which is going to help. It's not as if we're comparing it to going back to normal like it was. Mm-hmm. So we're not opening up to what it was because it'll never be that.
All right, Paul, this one affects you. So church services have been allowed to stay open as long as they follow social distancing guidelines. At-risk groups, and I say that because, what's your official title, P. Diddy? What would you say?
Well, there's no
cameraman or volunteer. So he's in part
of
the
his official title. The screen says Polly Walnut.
Yeah.
Hey,
no, that's because of this gray wings on my head. I need a haircut for it.
But
steak and baked potatoes.
At-risk groups are encouraged to still watch remotely. Like the movie theaters, I don't think I went in depth earlier, but there should be an empty row between people, 2 empty seats at least between non-family members. Personally, my church is holding off, but another pastor I know and really respect heads a smaller congregation. He said he's going to allow worshipers to come back, but with a required amount of space. So, Paul, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I go to a relatively large church, one of the largest in the Metroplex, and we are definitely not making any changes. We are 100% no contact on campus, no in-person meetings, and that will continue until we feel like we can. And I'm not speaking for the church, but until they feel like it's a safe thing to do. It's just not practical because of the sheer numbers of attendance every single weekend to have meetings at this point. For a larger church with a larger population, just like anything else, it wouldn't be practical for us to even try that.
Okay, I gave you guys some homework. If you did it, fine. If you didn't, fine too. But the whole point of this, I want to talk about the good of it. So after that, we patted a lot of that saying, I don't think we were negative. I think we did a really good job. Let's pat ourselves on the back there. But of course, everything has slowed down. My number one good overall, if you said, but if I had to give one answer, what I've loved the most is the pace of life. And I forget, Lamar, if that was us talking beforehand or right at the start of it, but everything is just slowed down. And don't get me wrong, I don't like the pain or a lot of going through. Again, I feel like I have to have a disclaimer and somebody's going to cut up the clip. Oh, JP says he likes everything and it's just great, but that's not the case. But so my 3 big ones go into 3 categories: my health, my schedule, and my bank account. Okay. My health, I've never walked so much in my life. I'm down 10 pounds. I'm sure you can tell, guys, right? But consistently sleeping better. Anyway, my schedule, time with Mrs. Texas Porch. We don't really see each other this time of season because of my day job that's been brought to a screeching halt, but maybe 3 nights a week or so at best. But I've really loved that. Obviously, no games to do at the main job at Rice. That came to a screeching halt, but I've Done a lot of Zooms, like we were joking about earlier with coaches. I've got a great second job. Can't go into schools to teach the kiddos, but still trying to adapt how to do things virtually. So we mentioned some of that earlier, causing us to adapt. And also 0 expenses on travel. Lamar, you seem to me, out of all the friends I have, the most financial. We said that, I guess, in episode 1. You have your crap together. But you'd be proud of me for budgeting without knowing it. But 0 expenses on travel. No food on the go. We're not eating out as much. We've allowed us like maybe 1 or 1.5, 2 nights a week eating out, but just focus maybe, hopefully, to change how I budget on the future. So my health, my schedule, and just having things freed up budget-wise. What say y'all?
I'm actually really optimistic about just all of it, sort of in general. Like, I know that there's a lot of pain and suffering, and we obviously lost a lot of people, and there's obviously sort of there's tragedy kind of in the background of everything, but I actually feel good about where we are after this, because, and I just mean that kind of in general, like, just we're all going to be a little more healthy and clean, and and just sort of respectful of a little space, and all kind of that kind of thing. It's just sort of better. Flu is probably going to reduce, and so we're all just more educated. So that my number one was we're just all more educated. Like, we know so much more. I mean, like half of us are infectious disease experts, wannabes.
Dr. Fauci's.
It's just like, yeah. So we're all critiquing Fauci and Dr. Birx. We're just more educated, and so we've all, we all know more about that, and that could only be good. My other one was kind of appreciation for family and time at home and that type of thing. I mean, whereas before everyone was just running around, getting to games, or just doing this, go to practice, do that, or whatever, study. You got to study all night, or you got to play the clarinet all night. There's none of that going on, and so we just have lots more time, and we're playing nightly games. We've watched more movies. No question, as a family, we've watched more movies in the last 2 weeks than we have the previous, decade combined. I mean, it's just, so we're just spending more time together. So that can only be good.
By the way, not to interrupt in the middle, but the Quantum Leap A+ job, Mitch. You introduced the girls to Quantum Leap.
I got time during the coronavirus, crisis to introduce my family to Quantum Leap, which I'm pretty sure I was officially a fan club of, a cult fan club member back in the day. So, that was only good. Let me just say, that show's not exactly timeless, buddy.
It's not.
Not exactly timeless.
We pointed that out at the time, how there was a formula, the same episode, not to bog down into a Quantum Leap critiquing podcast, but there was a formula where Sam would get in some kind of pickle, Al would have the sexual wisecracks, and then eventually, there was a threat of him being stuck, and then everything turned out okay, and he leaps back. Anyway. Sorry.
And let me tell you, after just watching a few episodes, for you Quantum Leap nerds out there, because I know there's just thousands.
Scott Bakula.
Yes, that Al is way more of a womanizer than we remember, and we remember him being a womanizer. But my gosh, there was maybe slightly inappropriate content there. So, another big thing for me that's sort of a positive is our neighborhood is much more active now. You get, like you were talking about, exercise. Everybody's out kind of, taking a walk or walking their dogs or doing all this. So, we have a neighborhood where we're not that close with everyone, and so everybody mostly keeps to themselves. There's a little bit of, interaction, but not in the last, couple of weeks. It's just, everyone, there's this, we talked about this a little bit on a couple of episodes ago, but the fact that we all have this shared experience, I mean, it's kind of like 9/11 in that way, but worldwide. It's like, the next time you go to whatever, you get to travel overseas and end up in Spain, whatever, in a random city. That the guy next to you had a similar experience as you during this coronavirus outbreak. So it's like this shared experience that the whole world has. And so I think that kind of camaraderie and type thing is just going to be helpful.
I'll go. Yeah, so I think mine are along the same lines. Like JP, this is a time of year where it is just impossible to connect with anybody, I feel like. I mean, everybody talks about how busy the fall is, but for a high school athletic trainer and teacher, spring is worse as far as demands of my time away from home. It's just insane because everything converges at once. Basketball is finishing up, wrestling's finishing up, soccer's in full swing, and then you throw in softball, baseball, track, which all good things, but you mix them all together. It's 4 nights a week staying, out covering those things in my world. So that part just from, one day to the next gone, literally just taken away. I miss that. That is such a huge part of what I do, dealing with athletes, taking care of their business, watching their games, watching them practice, doing rehab, and that's just gone. So that is like this huge hole that just is not fillable with anything else other than what I have found is just the time with my kids. I mean, I'm a single dad, so it's, a little bit rough to see them a lot whenever things are so busy, but I have them every weekday during the day. We are doing our schoolwork. We're trying to knock that out by noon. We take a walk every day. We kind of have the same little pattern we follow through our neighborhood and try to distance from everyone. There's a little area that they like to create an obstacle course every day, and we go check on these turtles of the creek and, all these things that we're doing. We've watched the spring world wake up because we went from, early spring. It was still cold outside. We were in sweatsuits, walking around to everything's in full bloom. And then now it's all, all trees are leafed out and everything else. So it's like I've never in years and years had a chance to just watch spring happen out in nature. So at least it's not like we're in the dead of winter and we're all having to huddle up inside all the time. At least we can get outside. That kind of like what Mitch is saying. But for me, it's definitely just the shift in time with family. And it really, as much as it is different teaching elementary school than it is teaching high school, it's a shift that I've kind of embraced. It's not a bad deal. I'm used to it by now, I suppose. But thankfully, their teachers do most of the work. I just have to guide them through staying motivated and getting things done. It's not always easy. And then I guess the other factor for me is just, not letting the whole experience, slip away. I mean, because it will never be like this again. At least I would anticipate not. Could have another virus sweep through, but thinking positive, I think it's just the biggest thing that I've kind of embraced is just the extra time we have. I mean, we started this silly podcast during all of this, so our Wednesday night or whatever night gatherings have been a part of that too, which has been good. But it's just a matter of slowing things down, getting a few things done around the house, and kind of like everybody else, finding ways to settle down, and watch a little Netflix and not really feel bad about it or feel bad about a nap in the middle of the day.
LaMarvelous?
Well, I have several thoughts on it. Overall, I would say it's been a positive experience. I feel I'm very fortunate to luckily have a job that I was able to continue to do because that makes a lot of it easier, gives some peace of mind. But second, on something Paul just mentioned, the nature aspect, that's been something I've really enjoyed too. It's taken me back to when I was a kid and I knew all the different leaves of the trees and the bugs, and I'm sitting here trying to remember those things, and even trying to was a lot of fun. It just took me back. It was like a time machine in a way. But I don't want to harp too much on the fact that I got married a few months back, but it's been a kind of a blessing in a way. We tried to plan a honeymoon and then the travel restrictions happened. So this has been sort of our honeymoon, and it's been great to, I don't know, just confirm, you're with the right person. And I mean, every day we're joking around. It's great. But I do miss family a lot. I made phone calls to people that I hadn't called in years. Mm-hmm. I mean, because I would normally see them, and I don't know, those are bittersweet because if it's an older relative, you hear something in their voice that they're scared, and that's tough. But overall, it's been a blessing. I try to work as a means to an end in a way. So I don't particularly like corporate America. And so this works out perfectly. A lot of my job is analytical. I go visit customers, but that's the fun social part. But, I don't have to stare into fluorescent lights every day. So that's really nice. and just interacting with friends more and trying new things like this, like Paul said. I'd say I have a warm, fuzzy feeling about it in a weird way.
Yeah, since you, Lamar, and Paul mentioned that, the show was going to happen one way or another, but it finally, I don't think it's a coincidence that it finally actually came to fruition. I have plans on doing it for a long, long time. I know we're at episode 1 or 2 predictions. Hey, how long will this thing go? I mean, I plan on doing it a while, and I think it would not have taken off in this form if we wouldn't have had this too. So had to chip that in. But I also got, even though Kevin and Josh had their nights off, in Kevin fashion, we can all picture Kevin saying this, but I just feel heroic being lazy. It's like heaven. And then he had to add what I've learned from the shutdown. I was like, oh, no, I just thought that was a regular text. So I responded, but then he wrote back, I have dreams about being the only person in the world. This is as close as I'll get, and I can still order pizza. So
the thing about JP, the thing about being lazy is because I think all of us have experienced a new lazy zone. Like we couldn't imagine having been so lazy, but it's like a lot of the guilt factor has been eliminated. Mm-hmm. It surely was on early, like early on, the first few weeks of being shut down. I mean, we're just being lazy, not doing anything, and just being like, I'm helping. This is great, and there's no guilt factor, So that's been pretty nice. I mean, and actually it's been it kind of harping on the good thing. I think most of us realize now that, hey, some part of laziness, at least if you're going to appreciate, spring, is good because that means you're in the moment, you're enjoying things as they happen, that type of thing. So I think or at least a lot of us have a new appreciation for just sort of not having anything going on.
So here's Josh's response too. I did not preview this beforehand. I assume there's not any cussing, but heck, I could.
Hey guys, this is answering JP's poll question for the day, so just chiming in with my 2 cents. I'd say that there's plenty of positives and negatives from the situation. The positives being like days like today, where my wife brings me home a Spider-Man snow cone to enjoy with the family at 5 in the afternoon. The negatives being I have to do a little TikTok video because of it to kind of offset that. But no, on a serious note, it's given me plenty more time to be with my family. I'm usually getting home at 11 or 12 most nights in March and April just because I'm at the ballpark somewhere, which I'm definitely missing the time at the ballpark. It kind of sucks, and I'll be ready to get out there when I am. But it has given me a little bit more time to get centered on some of the things that should mean more in my life. Plus, get caught up on all the latest Disney Plus features like Abominable and Onward and Boy Meets World and whatever. I'm not going to say my opinions on those. But there has been positives that have come out of this, and things that on a smaller scope than I will have to make sure to make time for. Although I won't have 7 days a week to do it, do 3 days a week to make sure that everything stays in line. So hope you're having a good show.
There you go, Podcast Josh on his night off contributing. So he with the dads in the crew. I mean, it all comes back to family for all of us. We all mentioned that, and then just keeping things in perspective.
So JP, okay, because he mentioned TikTok, and yes, so now I know exactly kind of what my girls are into on their phones all the time. Like we always stayed close to it, but we did not quite know all what they were doing. Well, yeah, they're my oldest who we allow to be on some part of TikTok is on TikTok quite a bit. But we also, so I've already done a TikTok video. I'm in TikTok land right now as we speak.
This is news to me. I did not know this.
I'm pretty sure it's got to have at least 1 million hits by now. But so that my 2 girls have created a YouTube channel so that they can hear themselves, speak on video. So that's kind of crazy. I mean, it's a new life. It's been 2 months, and the world has absolutely changed. It's ridiculous.
But on the Texas Porch Facebook page, I put that out, and then on my personal one as well. That sounded weird because I'm holding in a burp there. That's why. But anyway, Jeff says, enjoying more time playing dominoes, but he does think it'll change. He made some big changes after the 2012 tornado hit. And we haven't gone back to the old ways yet, but your priorities change for the good. So I told him I'd mention that. Vicky, P1 of the podcast, she says, apparently there are a lot of things I never knew I was good at or capable of doing, like I can cook and bake and paint furniture. So what are some, and this is a question for all of us, real quick, hitty, but what are some hobbies that y'all have picked up or tried for the first time? Me? Not yet. I mentioned all of mine that I've been doing, but no hobbies. What about y'all? You've picked up in the spare time, or do we mention some of those?
Well, I mean, I've already let you know that my new hobby is TikTok fame.
That's right.
So I'm a TikTok star now. That's a new hobby.
I think they call that TikTok famous.
Okay. Yeah. I read that.
Here's one from the mother-in-law, Miss Betty, the great Miss Betty. I've learned to have a lot more patience, to stay home when all I wanted to do is get in the car and go. Enjoy the prayer time at noon every day with the folks from church, and I think everything will slowly go back to normal. Praying it will anyway, so there's both sides of that. Abby, coworker at the other gig, she says, think families will spend more time together and will have more perspective of the mental state of their family members after this. Carolina says, I don't think we'll go back to normal, or at least I hope we don't. Agree with you, Carolina. But I like to think we're all changed for the better. Although the world is in chaos, I feel family life has calmed down a bit. And she, off podcast before this got going, she was my Texas country aficionado, so she's missed going to some Texas country concerts. But that'll be back here soon. I'll get to a few more of those in a second, but what do y'all think? Does it get back to normal soon? Does it take the second wave, or is it like some of those commenters said, does it not really ever get back to normal? Obviously, it's some of both in the long term. First, Lamar, what do you pontificate about there?
Well, I guess I'll answer it in two parts. One is instinctual, that within 9 months to a year, there'll be an advancement in medicine, and we will see something close to normal again. Maybe, like Mitch mentioned earlier, people will be kind of preconditioned to deal with these things, so the next time this happens will be better. But that's kind of my far-flung, guessing, instinctual thing. Short term, I guess anytime before that, I think it'll be pretty close to now, with various businesses kind of moving in and out, ebbing and flowing, doing the best they can.
My buddy Bradley on Facebook responds, missing to get going out with the family, does not think things will go back to normal. It'll be a new normal. We said that in a way already, but he's enjoyed getting to watch his almost 2-year-old grow. Miss Sharon, boss on the other gig, she says, we're not going back to the way it was. Everything will be adjusted from here on out to a new normal. Hey, key phrase. My small enjoyments during the time have been low stress because things have slowed down. We talked about things slowing down earlier. Thankful for quality time with her kids. Her husband usually doesn't have time for like puzzles. She's a big puzzler. Cooking, long walks. And finally, Bonnie says, I've personally been stretched in areas. Mitch, I think you said this partly earlier. Didn't know that she needed to be stretched, but appreciates her mom more than she used to. Found out how much of a homebody I really am. Gets along with Kevin there, Kevin's answer, but she found out what I don't need in her life that I thought she did. So,
well, that's the thing, is that I think for everybody, some of us, we're all going to react differently, but we all have a little more clarity. Like, we all know some things that we didn't know before. Like, do we need extra time? Some of us may not need it. Well, now we know, no, I don't really need a slower life. What I really need to go. But I think most of us, it's the opposite. It's like we didn't know we needed it so much, but now we realize, we're not going to have this, the slow period, forever. It's coming to an end. But I think we'll have a greater appreciation for, maybe we don't go all the way, or we don't go full speed. Maybe we tone it down for a little bit, or at least, I'm sure the older you are, the more you take from this for the rest of your life. You're just like, appreciate things a little bit more. I'm sure, the younger you are, maybe not so much, but.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I have a little bit of a fear. I'm trying not to let it creep in too much and trying to deal with it in the right ways, I suppose. But I have a little bit of fear of I'm going to miss this a lot. The
Same.
slowed downness. I'm not planning on changing my career. I'm not planning on, making any sweeping, changes by my own choice or anything. But man, next spring is going to be rough if things are normal, what we're used to. When I don't get a chance to create my own schedule, I have to bow down to, the other things, the pulls of the requirements of my job and whatnot. Man, I'm going to miss the quiet times with the kids on a regular basis and just having time to sit and relax and reflect or whatever. But I think what a lot of people are actively doing is we all know in the back of our minds, it is going to get back to whatever normal is at some point. The demands placed on us will be higher because everything will be back to where it was or at least close. And I think we're having to figure out in our individual situations is what are we going to do to make that possible, to make them more time, to, set aside some things that we just really don't need to spend time on or as much time on once we are having to function more like what we were used to before, a couple months ago.
I don't want it to get back to the way it was. One of y'all just said something, and the commenters too. I'm not going to let it get back to the way it is. I don't want people to take that out of context. I'm not doing it about face, and we'll cover a lot of this in next week's episode when we talk about unemployment, and the job structure. But man, is that too heavy to lay on with only a few minutes left in the show? Or y'all know all my secrets, though.
Obviously the economic cost, we're all unhappy about that, and we're all sad for people who have lost their job, which it's been ridiculously a lot of people. There are probably new economies opening up. I mean, things are changing a little bit in the business world. So there's going to be, there are going to definitely be a lot of people that this does not go well for. This is not an optimistic thing, for them. That's just a fact. But I think a lot of us who are, who are doing okay through this, or maybe appreciating the good, they have that same feeling about that they don't want it to get back like it was. So the result of that is that it won't be like it was. It just won't be, because more of us won't let it be there. Like, mentally, we will just pull it back and appreciate things a little more, and, video conference with friends a little more, family or whatever, and so we're just going to do that.
All right, now it is time, gentlemen, for This Week in Texas Sports and History. I really need to get a production value.
This is the sports podcast?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
There was a draft last week or something.
We covered that. Did you listen to the draft show?
I haven't yet.
On this date, actually April 30th of 1992, Mitch, rapper Travis Scott was born in Houston. You know the name, right?
Travis Scott.
Elkins High School, went some to UTSA. Anyway, one sports birthday.
Sun is down, freezing cold.
This is the most famous Travis Scott song. Yeah. Don't want to work on the bleep, so we'll
Has anyone heard of Travis Scott?
Yes.
I do.
Maybe me being the Houstonite of us four. I think that's why I know that rapper there.
He sounds like he sounds like a center fielder for the Padres. Okay.
Yeah.
On Friday, May 1st, 1969, this was a big date in Texas sports history. Shout out to Josh, not on the show tonight, but Astros Don Wilson threw his second career no-hitter. The Reds had no-hit the Astros the day before, so he returned the favor. May 1st of 1991, Nolan Ryan throws the seventh and final no-hitter of his career at 44 years young.
Texas.
Became the oldest pitcher to throw a no-hitter in the majors. Struck out 16, walked 2 in a 3-0 win. This is one of the many reasons sports is great. I remember exactly where I was, Mitch. Remember listening on the tailgate, I think, of Conquist's truck. Danny Shepard played for. Listened to the part of it there, and then back home. I'm wanting to. Maybe I just watched the highlights at home, but I remember Mark Holtz, the great Eric Nadel. I remember being there and listening to that. Power of radio, obviously. But
Awesome.
y'all remember?
Awesome.
That's right in our wheelhouse, baseball consciousness age.
I mean, I remember it, but I think what I remember,
Cokie.
like my memory is not where I was. It's probably like the TV shot that we all have, of the game. It's just that's what's burned in my memory. Same with the Ricky Henderson, the 5,000 strikeout.
Mm-hmm.
Just that image behind Nolan, from the camera back there in center field. That's my memory, unfortunately.
Side note, do we have an episode where we explain all of our inside jokes, or if it's funny to just you and me, do we just roll with it, guys? What's the ruling here?
Roll with it. Keep them interested. Keep them listening.
Cokie!
Yeah,
Cokie!
You can't explain JP.
Oh God, there's so many random ones. Cookie was just that's so inside.
Yeah, like
Right.
12 people on this planet know how funny that is. But May 1st of 1980, the Dallas Mavericks officially became the 23rd member of the National Basketball Association when the big cowboy hat of Donald Carter's group, that was weird pronunciation there, but award of franchise by Larry O'Brien. That first team had a record of 15-67 for its inaugural 1980-81 season. And ironically, they got a lot better a few years after that, but then early 90s, they just couldn't really get it back going until Cubes got him going.
The maps. If it's possible to just strike out the Cubes Nowitzki era,
Which I don't think you can. I just checked.
okay. So I guess it's impossible. But if it's possible for you to go on a thought experiment with me, JP, and if you cut that period out, it's the worst organization in the NBA, hands down, right?
Either them, the 76ers were decent in the 90s. They were really bad for like a 16, almost 20-year stretch.
But an iconic player.
Yeah, a few, yeah. So short answer, yes. I totally agree and know where you're going with that one. All right, Saturday,
Right.
May 2nd of 1978, the Tyler Rose, Earl Campbell is picked with the number 1 pick by the Houston Oilers. So on Sunday, May 3rd, 1903, this just had wacky imagery, so I thought I'd mention it. Stuntman and Corpus Christi native Robert Vandervoort performed his famed loop-the-loop bicycle stunt for King Edward VII at a command performance in London. Vandervoort traveled around the U.S. and Europe under the stage name of Diavolo. He later, I didn't write the whole thing, but he kind of passed away in a train accident, so I didn't mention that. But
Oh my God, that had so many twists and turns.
I know, right?
And then he got hit by a train?
Later, not on that day.
Oh my gosh.
May 3rd, 1903. Anyway.
My heart just skipped a beat.
Yeah, sorry. I'm all over the road there. Not a great storyteller, bad for this medium. But May 3rd of 1968, surgeon Denton Cooley and the associates at Houston St. Luke's Hospital performed the first heart transplant in the United States. The patient was Everett Thomas, lived for 204 days. The heart was donated by a 15-year-old girl. Worldwide, over 3,000 heart transplants are now performed each year. But the first one, guys, was in, where else? Texas. Great old state of Texas.
Yeah, I guess that's important. Okay.
Side note to something that's not to do with this note, but something we talked about a few weeks ago, because I did a little research. Lily Russell, the great-grandmother of Mrs. Texas Porch, and Redneck Rob, a soon-to-be character that you just don't have to worry about right now.
What?
But their great-grandmother, my wife's great-grandmother, assisted Dr. DeBakey in the first ever coronary bypass surgery. So, mentioned that a few weeks ago. Another heart thing came up now. Wanted to mention that
You
again.
got to be a hardcore listener to connect those dots. I'm not even sure.
Hold on. I need to get out my whiteboard. Hold on one second.
We need a one of the like on TV with the scouts. I mean with the
Here's one. May 5th of 1862, Mexican general and Texas native Ignacio Zaragoza defeated French expeditionary forces at Puebla, Mexico, bringing about what, guys?
Cinco de Mayo.
El Cinco de Mayo. Once widely observed throughout Mexico today, it's an official public holiday only in the Mexican state of Puebla, where it's now known as El Día de la Batalla de Pueblo. But Cinco de Mayo remains popular in the United States as a celebration of Mexican culture and heritage. Yeah, right. It's so folks can drink and drink and drink.
You're going to put appropriate music under all of this, right?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I would never do anything like that. Here's one for all four of us. And again, didn't plan the mix before I researched this, but May 5th of 1939, the telescope at the University of Texas at Austin McDonald Observatory was dedicated in Fort Davis on Mount Locke. Owes its foundation to the unexpected legacy of William Johnson McDonald, bachelor banker of Paris, Texas, near our home front of commerce. But anyway, $850,000 for the establishment.
What looked through that telescope, have we not?
We have.
Yeah. Hence me bringing it up. Yeah.
Big baby.
Yeah. I think, Lamar, you went a year or two before us, but did you make it up to the big telescope there in Big Bend, Marfa, Alpine area?
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of the stops on the West Texas tour, and we went at night to the Star Party, where they pull the big laser out and show all the constellations and all that, and then they have multiple telescopes set up afterwards you can look through, and it was just fascinating. I've got to go back.
Yeah,
these three jokers had a very poor planning. We set up home base like right outside of Big Bend. Well, we can tell that story another time, but right outside of Big Bend, decided it'd be a good idea to drive 3 hours out to the McDonald Observatory and then go through Marfa to see those lights and then drive back to our home base on the other side of Big Bend. So
we weren't prepared for that vast area there.
No, we were not.
Hey, Paul, the only thing better is that I went to the Marfa Lights observatory area along the highway at about 3 p.m.
Oh, there you go.
The sun sets early out there, right? See if y'all remember this here. This I labeled it in my phone, Moon Guy at McDonald's.
Okay. Contrary to popular belief, the moon is not made of cheese. Mostly just oxygen, silica, iron, manganese, carbon, kind of ordinary rocky metallic stuff.
Y'all remember this?
Yeah, I do now. Oh, gosh. I do now. I can't believe how did you remember that?
Okay, I don't know if there's anything.
This gentleman has a little bit of Big John in him, I gotta say.
Made
a little bit of Big John going on.
You think? No.
Contrary to popular belief, the moon is not made of cheese. Mostly just oxygen, silica, iron, manganese, carbon, kind of ordinary rocky metallic stuff.
That's labeled Moon Guy McDonald's in my phone. But remember how they split up?
I want what that guy is having.
They're all
That's what I don't
remember how McDonald's was involved here.
McDonald's Observatory. Sorry, that's the name of the observatory. So
I thought he was at McDonald's on the road trip or something.
No,
that's what I was thinking too. I couldn't remember what we were talking about.
Call back to the beginning of the story 9 minutes ago.
Your memory is on point, JB.
Steel trap,
Thank you,
sir.
I just remembered because it was on my phone. But anyway, that dang near cleaned me out. That was funny. All right, tidying it up here. Wednesday, May 6th of 1990, Jose Altuve is born. Little Astros slugger there. Clean as a whistle. Never cheated a day in his life there. It'd be more fun if our Astros guy Josh was on the show. The new Mr. Cowboy, Jason Witten, born May 6th of 1982. And May 6th of 1838, the oldest active missionary Baptist church in Texas was organized just north of me in Nacogdoches, Texas. Guys, that was fun.
No, I'm cleaned out. That was fun. That was actually therapeutic too, because we get to talk about all the good stuff, all the glass half full side of the show. I like that.
Yes. Well, y'all behave. Be safe. Remember, check us out, thetexasporch.com. Rate us on Apple 5 stars. And you can communicate with us as well. TexasPorchPod@gmail.com. Have a great rest of this day or night. God bless, and we'll talk to you next week out here on the Texas Porch.
I don't particularly like corporate America.
Yes.
Sports.
Score.
That sounded weird because I'm holding in a burp there. That's why. But
The maps.
Robert Vandervoort?